Why Taurus's CEO is urging caution amid pandemic optimism. I like this article. This is one of the few that I read before. Well, what do you call it? Glanced through it. But I like the article. I think he raised a lot of good points. George George Hugh, pictured, knows a thing or two about markets from his previous professional life, and he's preaching patience as the mortgage industry waits for this one to turn. Prior to founding Taurus Mortgage Capital, the company he currently serves as president and CEO, Hugh worked as Vice President Treasury and Vice President Head of Mortgage Origination for ING Direct Canada. I came from the capital market side of the business, he's told Mortgage Broker News. I wasn't even involved in mortgage sales at all. The experience, he said, has given him a different perspective than most brokers on the state of the mortgage industry, providing an insight into market trends and how pricing takes place. And he's adamant that mortgage professionals need to remain cautious as hopes rise for a return to normalcy. Getting back to a normal market is going to take a long time, he warned. Don't think everyone's going to have their vaccine and the market is going to be operating the same way as before COVID-19. It's not going to. Canadian consumer confidence is at its highest level since January 2018 amid a buoyant housing market and positive news on the vaccination front. Still, Hugh believes that overoptimism remains a risk, particularly with an end to Canada Emergency Response Benefits CERB program in sight. When that stops, I think that's going to really impact Canadians, he said. Right now, I believe there's a false sense of security by Canadians making their mortgage payments because they may be getting their CERB payments and using that to pay their mortgages. What happens when those payments stop for Canadians? I don't think the liquidity issue is over for Canadians. Oh, that's a good question. Um, that is a good question. Well, the when you looked at the numbers for the amount of people that actually required a mortgage deferral, it was a lot less than the people that took out a mortgage deferral. So, and then we take into consideration, the opening back up the of the economy, and I guess which jobs were really impacted the most, like the service industry and some business owners. I don't know, just say some business owners. There were a lot of business owners that were affected quite harshly. It's a good question. I think we're in a situation where there's not much insight or much visibility into what the current situation is. We don't really know what's going on, put it that way. Um, and I think it makes sense to have concern given that we are technically in some kind of pandemic, or we're in pandemic response mode right now. So, what will happen going forward? It's a great question. Nobody knows. I mean, we can all speculate, and I think there's a lot of fun in speculation. But to truly know what is going to happen next, I don't think any of us has that ability. So while he described himself as bullish on the housing market, particularly in Ontario, Hugh believes brokers have a deep duty to keep their clients informed and educated on the possibility of economic recovery taking longer than initially envisaged. Indeed, it's central to the business approach at Taurus. I'm not here just to deliver a mortgage. Anybody can deliver a mortgage, he said. Our approach is that we have a wealth building approach to all of our clients. We educate them on every aspect of buying a home. We always spent a lot of time with our clients explaining these things. That's good. A lot of people don't even ask questions, and I think it's the responsibility of the professional that client is working with to prompt the right questions. You know, client comes in asking for the rate they heard on the radio, or saw on the TV. I don't know. Do you see rates on? I don't really watch TV. Do you see rates on the TV? I guess so, right? I know you see ads on like Facebook, but anyways, radio. You hear radio ads or whatnot, and that's fine. And it initiated a conversation, but really you have to go through like a fact finding. Like anybody that's in sales knows, you have to go through discovery questions with a client to make sure you can provide them with a good fit. Because if you just, sometimes the client doesn't know what's best for them. They have an idea of what they should be looking for, but that can be just due to the fact they don't know much about what it is they should be looking for, right? So they just have a little bit of information. They know that a low rate is something that's good. They hear that the 5-year fix is popular, so they want a low rate 5-year fixed. But they didn't keep in mind that they're going to be selling the property. No, sorry, they're going to be doing some renovations on the property in probably like 3 4 years, and they're going to end up breaking. They're going to take some money out of the equity of the home to do that, and they get a new mortgage. Now they have to wait an extra couple of years, because if they break the mortgage, they're going to have to pay a lot of penalties to do so. So just keeping in mind, what your plans are, and you should be acquiring products to fit that help you achieve your goals. The goal shouldn't be to acquire the specific product. The product itself should be helping you, should be assisting you to achieve a specific goal, and not just just having a low rate just for the sake of having a low rate. Low rates are good in the absence of any other information. A lower rate is good, but there's a lot of information you want to make sure you're getting, not just is this the lowest rate. With that in mind, Hugh warned brokers against. Oh wait, where were they? So in Hugh's eyes, brokers need to be frank with their clients. If you're not going to be buying a house because it has a 2% interest, you shouldn't be buying a house. With that in mind, he warned the brokers against taking a transactional approach and not caring for the well-being of the client. Very common. Very common. It's just moving on to the next. I mean, you go through. It doesn't. That's not saying that you necessarily have to have a long conversation with a broker, but you gotta ask a few questions, and it should be more than what's your best rate. I mean, if that's the only question you have in mind, then you need to take some time to educate yourself on mortgages and the products and questions you should be asking when you're talking about a mortgage. The recovery is on its way, but it's not like flicking a switch overnight, he said. We have to prepare our clients for the market we're in. We've got to educate our clients on what's happening. The housing market, he said, is the only thing moving right now, which is just how does that work? Oh man, how does that work? How can it has to be an indication that the market is not as or the economy is not as bad as we think it is, or that we're about to reach a tipping point of some sort. Because I mean, how are people buying houses at an increased rate when there's because you have to qualify for a mortgage, right? So you still have to qualify in the same manner. That means you have to have the right income, you have to have savings, you need to check all the boxes. So if the market is still moving, that means people still have the sufficient income to purchase these properties. Hugh pointed to a potent example of the need for caution. Clients who bought a house and were laid off due to the pandemic before returning to work and securing a mortgage. What happens if they get laid off again because something pandemic related happens? He said, how do they pay their mortgage? We're not out of it yet. Yeah, well, I guess that's where the role of the government comes in, right? We just have a new CERB or something like that. I don't know if that's an appropriate long-term solution, but it is something that most likely will happen again. And I think That's the end of that. Well, you can see some rates over here. Anyways, that's basically it. Bring us to a close. And yeah, if you have any questions, leave them in the chat. I mean, what do you think? You think we're out of the woods? Do you think we're out of the woods yet? Do you think there's going to be another? I mean, what will happen if we see the numbers start to flare up again? Are we going to have a similar response? Anyways, that's my cue to exit. And yeah, thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and cheers.